host and panelists. Okay, host and panelists can vote. Okay. I don't see any responses. Do you see them?
I see them.
You see responses coming in? Okay. For whatever reason, I'm not able to see. Why don't you go ahead and reveal the results for me? I can't see them. Okay, 1/4 have been many times. 40% no, but I want to go. Okay. All right, let's go to the second question. Have you ever been to Bloomington, Indiana, or Indiana University campus? And why don't you pull that poll up there? So, yes, many times. Yes, once. I want to go back. Yes, and it is so. I'm not going back. Not sure. No, I have not been to the USA. No, but I want to visit. No, and I prefer not. Pick one of those.
Doctor, I'll make you a co-host now. I think you can see the progress of these polls.
Right. I can't see the progress. There we go. Thank you.
Welcome. We are live now to YouTube. So
we are live in YouTube. Thank you for coming, people in YouTube. Thank you for watching. We're taking polls here, as you can see. You missed the first poll, which asked if you've ever been to North America. Now we're asking if you've ever been to Indiana. Well, let's end the polling at this point, Hessa, and reveal the polls. And people want to come to visit? Well, come visit me. Okay, great. All right, wonderful. So let's take a look at the third slide. Hang on. And the third one is, have you ever seen me speak before? This one I'm really curious. Have any of you ever been to one of my talks? No, but you're here now. Not sure. If you're not sure, I'm a little worried. Because I often talk to my fish, and you would definitely remember that, wouldn't you? Oh yes, okay. You would definitely remember my toy fish, or my lightsaber from Star Wars. We'll talk about Star Wars later on. Okay, one person has seen me more than once. One person has seen me once, and you're back for more. Okay, most people have not, 90% of you. Well, if 90% have never seen me present, there's a lot of pressure on me to do a good job today. All right, let's end that poll. And let's go to the next one in the sequence, the fourth poll. And it is, have you ever taught a blended course, a hybrid course that is face-to-face and online? Okay, interesting. I've got a handbook of blended learning that came out a long time ago. I don't think we have a chapter from Saudi Arabia in this one, or the Middle East, but we had chapters around the world in here. It was fun to do. I don't want to do it again. This is too expensive. Don't buy this book. Instead, buy someone else's book. Caitlin Tucker. She has 3 books on blended learning. This is her newest one, Balance with Blended Learning. Partner with your student, reimagine learning and reclaim your life. Okay, her name is, let's see if I can get her name up there. I'll put it up, I'll put a slide up on this one. Okay, you have in here, most people selected a couple of blended courses. Okay, great. Some have, actually the most have you done many of them. Wow, okay. I'm preaching, we call it in America, preaching to the choir. You've already done this. You don't need me today. I think I'll stop here and go have lunch instead of presenting because you've already done blended. Okay, oh, I'm just kidding. Let's go to the next question, Essa. And the next question involves, have you taught a fully online class? Can we call up that poll? Okay, we should be able to get that up shortly. Okay, how many of you ever taught a fully online class? The first answer was no, and I like it that way. It's hard teaching a fully online, but it's so much fun teaching fully online at the same time. Yes, many. Yes, just a couple. 6 people so far. Yes, many. No, but I've taught one or more blended ones. 5 of you. No, but I'm willing to try. Okay, interesting. So it's quite diverse. We've got a really diverse audience here. They've got a wide range of experiences, and that's good. All right, so we can reveal the results here on that one. And you can see what people have said on that one. And this is just the warm-up questions. And if you came late, you missed the virtual choir singing. And I have more virtual choirs we could all sing together. So let's close that one a little bit. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning slide. Blend, but don't break. In America, there's an expression, bend, but don't break. Like, bend my mobile phone, but don't break the phone. In Korea, they're building bendable text, so you can bend out the screens and make a bigger screen for yourself. Blend, we call this blend, but don't break. We're going to try and blend with 2 different models that I've developed. One called Tech Variety, TEC Variety, and one called R2D2, hence my Star Wars lightsaber, and my backup lightsaber, my red one. Doesn't work so well. R2D2 stands for read, reflect, display, and do. It's RRDD or R2D2. So we'll get back at that. And the right-hand side there shows my R2D2 model. And I'm going to give you some strategies, some activities, some examples that fit within those models, because the technology comes and goes. The technology is always changing, but the model can stay with us for a long time. It's something that you can utilize over and over again, no matter what the technologies happen to be, okay? So first of all, I'm working on another book called Education 2020. And in there, I talk about 20 roles of an instructor being a curator, like a museum curator of good stuff, of the best golden nuggets in the world. And one is being an orchestra conductor, creating a symphony. One is like being a counselor to your student or a consultant with your students. In part, we're a concierge at a hotel, giving directions to our students where to go. All these C words like coach, community organizer, cultivator of learning. We have all these C words. I talk about that in the book, that we're not just direct instructors anymore. We're much more than that when we teach. There are many roles that we entertain, many roles that we play on. And there's many principles of learning embedded in creating a solid learning environment. So I've created the last principles of instruction. There's someone named David Merrill who created the first principles of instruction. So I created the Learning Activation System template, or LAST. Principle of flexibility, meaningfulness, high expectations, choice and options, feedback and support for your students, cheerfulness and optimism because you want them to succeed, trial and error, failure being okay, connecting students, creating humanity, giving them virtual hugs, if you will. Today's age, when students are learning from home, they need a lot of compassion. They need a lot of emotional support. They need a sense of caring on the part of their instructors, that they're concerned about them. Someone's looking out for them. This is the principle of human connectedness, and also getting students in teams sharing what they're learning. So these principles create a learning environment, and we take on roles as instructors that are quite varied depending upon the circumstance. Teaching and learning today is really complex, but it's so much fun. And we're going to have a little bit of fun here today. By the way,
Dr. Bunk, there seems to be a gray box on top of your slides for some odd reason.
how much interference does it cause?
It's in maybe the 1/5 of the right-hand side, 1/5 of the slide.
On the top or on the bottom?
On the right hand of the side of the slides.
on the
I
right
think
hand.
it is the I think it is the attendees or the chat box that you are opening.
Should I have a chat box closed?
I think so, or the
Or maybe I take the, does that help?
no, it's oh yeah, now it's good.
Gone?
Yeah, it's good now.
Good. Okay. Well, I found something new. You helped me
Yeah.
discover something new. I had my video panel button open. Okay. So I have a new TV show or a webcast show on Saturdays, very late in Saudi Arabia at night. But you can watch the archive. It's called Silver Lining for Learning. In that show, we have people around the world as guests talking about how they're changing education in this new age of teaching and learning, how they're adjusting their instruction. And so that's one thing that I'm offering the world. As I mentioned, one of our guests in there has been Caitlin Tucker, who has this new book, Balance with Blended Learning, which I highly recommend. You can find all her blended learning resources at catlintucker.com. You also might want to read someone named Flower Darby. Her first name is Flower. What a great first name, okay? She's written quite a number of articles on how to be an effective instructor in online environments. And she works at Northern Arizona University near the Grand Canyon. Anyways, take a look at that article. If you download my slides, go to trainingshare.com. Training Share. Hessa can type that in the chat window. And go to archive talks at trainingshare.com. You can download my slides right now and have all of them and do whatever you want. Use them, share them, change them. Flower Darby says that ways to be more inclusive in our virtual classrooms, to think about students with multiple needs, might have special needs. She gives her students a lot of choice in their final assignments or final projects. She allows them options in how they're going to complete their assignments. She also says that we have to think about, this is my list, this isn't her list. We have to think about when we teach online, we shouldn't treat online learning as less special than face-to-face. We should treat online as equal to face-to-face, come with enthusiasm, project excitement, but at the same time, give students supports and scaffolds and tutorials on how to use the resources in your online class. Create short videos, short tutorials, how-tos of how to use different technologies so that students can succeed and can communicate clearly with your students. At least once a week, have a class announcement or an email or something to support them. Create some clarity in what you want them to do, what you're expecting to do in the class, and project that enthusiasm. Maintain really positive attitude. If you're positive, students will be positive. But provide them with supports, like a little checklist that they walk themselves through, a set of routines that they might do, but give them some choice, convenience, flexibility within those routines. Give them some advice about how they're going to approach their assignments, what they might do to be successful in their classes. They might need, I don't know if you can see, Hessa, can you see this? Can you see me, by the way?
I can see it.
Yeah, so I have yellow, like little markers that indicate I'm in learning now, so no one bothers me. So my parents or my brothers and sisters don't interfere with my learning. I'm purposeful. And have students reflect on their learning and what they've learned. Also, when you give feedback in a timely manner, in a respectful manner. Respond as when you can, but within 24 or 48 hours. Let your students know that you might give feedback on a certain day and to wait for that day so that they're not expecting it every day. Tell them there's certain days of the week you'll give feedback. Focus on engagement. So this talk will mostly focus on engagement. and creating challenging assignments that are supportive. Recently, last week, there was an article on how to make Zoom. And by the way, Hessa, are you using Zoom in Saudi Arabia?
Yes, but mostly Blackboard Ultra.
Okay, this is the former president, CEO of Blackboard. He started a new company called Class for Zoom. He's creating tools embedded within Zoom for proctoring exams, checking attendance, engaging students, and so forth. So there's going to be a set of tools in the not too distant future that will make Zoom even better. Okay, we have another polling question. Hessa, could you call this polling question up on here? Have you ever reflected on your teaching philosophy or approach during COVID-19? Okay. Yes, many times. And I'm dramatically changing it. Yes, many times I'm taking action, meeting people, attending webinars. Yes, I thought about it a couple of times. No, not sure. I'm brain dead right now. No, my teaching philosophy is the same. Okay, I'm curious. A lot of changes happened for everyone around the world the last 6 months. Now the last 7 or 8 months, all around the world, people are changing. Okay. Of the 41 people, the number one answer so far is, and Hessa, you can reveal the results, it's number 2 on there. Many times I'm taking action, meeting people, reading more, attending webinars. And some of you are even changing your teaching philosophy. So that's a strong statement right there, that 86% of you, almost over 80% of you are at least taking action, doing something with it. Okay, we can stop sharing there and we'll go on to the next poll. The next poll that we have in here, I hope we can call that one up. I don't see it yet in there.
Do you have the poll or chat open?
Yeah, do you have it now in there?
Still there. It's covering the middle part.
Do you see this one? I see it. Do you guys see it? Have you been to it?
We can't see most of it. The box is like right in the middle.
Do you see it now, Hessa?
It's still there. It started to pull a different one.
Huh. Well, maybe I stopped sharing for a second. Okay. I wonder why that one didn't show too well. Let me call this up again. Do you see this slide now? Have you ever been to an e-learning or online institute conference? Do you see that one, Hessa?
Yes.
Okay, you want to call up that poll? Okay, have you ever been to an e-learning or online learning conference, institute, or summit? Yes, many times. Yes, once or twice. No, but I want to go. No, and I'm not going. Okay. I used to run the eLearn conference, and in the UAE, I ran Education Without Borders, EWB, and Emerging eLearning, EML. I helped run 2 conferences in Dubai and Abu Dhabi back 15 or so years ago or more. A lot of fun. I also been to Saudi Arabia 6 times at the LE conference and other things at King Saud University, at King Khalid University, at Saudi Aramco, and other places. Okay, yes, many times, 15 of you. Yes, once or twice. Okay, great. Well, many people have, and I'll share the results. Can you see the results, Hessa? can't hear you.
The black
Can you
box.
see?
I think you need to stop, close it on yours, on your end.
You want to share the results?
They're shared. They should be shared.
Okay, great. Okay, can you see this slide, Contact North? Contact North webinars?
Yes.
Tessa? You can see. Okay, so one place you might go if you want to get more support for webinars is up in Canada, in Ontario, Canada. There's a website called teachonline.ca. That's Teach Online Canada webinars. They offer a series of webinars on things like Zoom, things like engaging learners, online learning, motivation, all sorts of things for free. And I've done one, many people I know have done webinars for Contact North. They're really set up or designed for Ontario, Canada, the province of Ontario, but now they're going global. Well, let's look at motivation first. We know a lot about motivation and support for learners, but it's difficult thinking about online motivation. We know in face-to-face classrooms, students need goals. They need to be challenged. They need feedback. They need personal feedback. They need peer interaction. They need to have things build on their interests. Jerry Brophy at Michigan State has looked at motivation for 40 years and came up with these principles of motivation. These are more in K-12 schools that he found these. Two people in New York, in Rochester, New York, Edward Deasy and Richard Ryan, says that we need to build on intrinsic motivation, what students are interested in, their passions. And so I built the tech variety model based on Deasy and Ryan and Jerry Brophy and many other people. I read the motivation literature for decades before coming up with this model. And it's available for you to download for free. You can go to techvariety.com and get this book in Chinese or English. I have someone in Saudi Arabia. She was supposed to translate it to Arabic. She hasn't finished. I don't know where it's at, because she hasn't told me. She's done one of my books, actually two of my books before. I'm hoping someday in Arabic. So Tech Variety stands for safe tone, encouragement, curiosity, that's tech. Then variety, autonomy, relevance, making it interactive and engaging, tension or challenge, and yielding a product. Those are the 10 principles of the tech variety model. Some things in the book are low risk. Some things are high risk. Some ideas are time intensive, takes a lot of time. Some take no time. And so in the book, we have a chapter that gets at all the activities and the degree of time, risk, and cost involved in those particular activities. So I'm going to give you some examples of the tech variety model. Now I've come up with two different books that are 100 activity books. This is one that's free, one that's not free. I'll get at that later on. So to create a tone or climate that's safe for students to learn, we have to think about how to make students feel comfortable with the learning environment. Comfort is a key. Comfort and belongingness, the virtual hugs of belonging. So one idea that I got last week in reading this article last week by Bonnie Stakowiak in a journal called Education Surge, EdSurge. She talks about making breakout rooms less boring by having students post their expectations, post their commitments. You might form breakout rooms of your students and send students to different rooms where a small team will all post their expectations. And then they come back to the big group to share them. Or they might post a favorite web link and then discuss it. Or they might post a document in the breakout room and discuss the document. And so you could do a number of things in the breakout rooms, but I think having students discuss maybe their interests, their hobbies, their expectations, their commitments. And so there's a second article that came out last week, actually a slide deck of ideas how to make breakout rooms less boring. So if you download my slides, you can watch the YouTube video that goes with this particular section. And it comes from, in the United States, it comes from New Hampshire. A second idea that I'll share with you on tone and climate relate to using a tool called Flipgrid. Now, these pictures there are my students last spring. These are all my students. And my students use Flipgrid to discuss articles. Flipgrid is video discussion, using Flipgrid to discuss ideas. Instead of in text, use video. And it's a free tool. Microsoft just bought this and made it free to the world. I know the person who built Flipgrid. He's a friend of mine. He's at the University of Minnesota, or was there. And he built this in 2013. So it's existed for 7 years now. And you do short video, a minute and a half video discussions, threaded discussions, talking about content, or about ideas. They're very interactive. I see it more used in schools than in colleges, but it's used in both. I use it in my college classrooms, university classrooms as well. A third idea for tone and climate is to have short video introductions of the course, posting an introduction of what you expect and what students are going to do. You might also have students post introductions of themselves, so you get to know who they are. A fourth idea for tone and climate has to do with Slido. Slido is a free tool where students with their mobile devices can ask questions of a presenter. If you have a guest speaker, they can post their questions in Slido, and the rest of the class votes on the questions. They rank the questions. They're anonymous, so they don't know whose question they're voting on, whose idea they're voting on. And the best ideas go to the top, and you can ask those questions. So it's a way to engage. It's a way to get students to interact. It's a way to get students excited about the learning environment that they're in, just like using a tool like Poll Everywhere. Students in Australia at Flinders University in the School of Medicine are asked questions each week, polling questions, and the answers to their polling questions go to all Flinders University sites throughout Australia. They have a number of campuses. Live, so they're collecting data, and it goes live to all the students who might be coming in via the video conference that they're using. What's nice about Poll Everywhere, you can do the polls on your mobile devices, and it's a free tool. And the results can go right in your slides as you're presenting. And it's very interactive. Students see the results in their slides. A tool you might not have heard about, this is a tool for encouragement or feedback, is Vocaro. Vocaro is a tool that's free where you talk into the computer to give feedback. You hit the start button, and then you record your voice, you click end, and it gives you a URL to share with the student, feedback that you're giving to students on their papers. Another idea for encouragement or feedback is Quizlet. Quizlet is the largest quizzing tool in the world, and it's free. And you can use existing quizzes in Quizlet, or you can create your own. So students like to know if they know the content. So you can self-test on key concepts that you're trying to teach. So you might give it a try one time and see if it works for you. A similar tool is the Khan Academy. Khan Academy is a tool that was developed by the person in the middle there, Salman Khan. When his nieces were having problems with geometry and other math content, he developed tutorials for them. And the math tutorials he built went viral around the world. And so Bill Gates gave him money to build more and build more and build assessment. And so there's not just math in there, there's English in there and finance in there and physics and chemistry, and every high school and early college discipline is there in the Khan Academy, which will test students on what they know. Very simple lesson plans. And this is being used, like I said, around the world. And by the way, during COVID-19, the use of Khan Academy has exploded, totally exploded. I mean, the use of MOOCs, or massive open online courses, which I researched a couple books on MOOCs, those have exploded too around the world. So another idea for encouragement and feedback is tutorials. Sharing what you're doing and recording, like if you have your students using a new software tool, using a new technology, you might create a tutorial for them in Jing, Screener, Screenomatic, all these free screen sharing tutorial tools. You put the headset on and you click the website, and it records your voice and records what you're clicking through, so you can talk the students through what to do and when to do it. Students need support in COVID-19 days. They need help and support. This is a wonderful way to give them the support that they need, and they don't have to use it if they don't need it, only those that need it. Number three is curiosity. That almost rhymes. Curiosity. What's the girl doing in a tree? Okay, I want to know. I'm curious. What she was doing in Malaysia last month or a couple months back is she was sitting in a tree to get ready for final exams because she didn't have good internet access, and only up in the tree could she get good internet. And her video went viral, so much so that the local telecommunications provider helped in Malaysia. They provided access to people like her. They went and provided the towers that they needed to provide access. But she became a celebrity for a week in Malaysia. So number three is curiosity, bringing in the news, getting students excited about the news. So every day in my classes, as Hessa knows, she's been in my classes, I share the news. I have articles. I'm going to share with my students what's happening today. I'm excited about seeing my content, my discipline in the news every day. And so here she is sharing what's happening to her. You might be teaching science. You might share this article about scientists putting 3D glasses on a cuttlefish, looking at its depth perception, having well-developed depth perception. No one knew this before, but scientists at the University of Minnesota and scientists in Boston were working together to discover this back in January. Here in Bloomington, Indiana, we have two very innovative and creative high school teachers who are creating mystery stories to get students interested in the content. They call them little spy agencies. So every day they have a video that goes up that gives students clues, and students are watching the video and they have to figure out the clues and solve the mystery, solve the story in effect. And it's gotten students really engaged in the content. And these two teachers are extremely, as I said, extremely innovative and creative. Dinosaurs. Every day there's a new dinosaur being discovered or a new creature from the past being discovered. If you teach paleontology, you can teach them about the crazy beast or the tiny bug slayer. Again, curiosity. If you say, oh, did you ever hear of the tiny bug slayer? Well, certainly kids are going to want to know more and go discover, go read, find out. When we know we don't know something, we look for more information. That's how learning happens. Learning just doesn't happen by accident. It happens when you're motivated to find out more, when there's unknowns, when there's a mystery novel, when there's delightful new discoveries that are happening. Now, the woman on the left ran was the first woman to run the Boston Marathon 50 years ago, and she had to dress like a man to run it. 50 years later, she ran it again when she was 70-some years old. The man on the right started running marathons in his 80s when his family had all passed away. He was 102 when he retired from running marathons. He came out of retirement last year at 104 and ran another marathon. If you teach fitness or health, these are video stories that can get your students excited about fitness and health, nutrition, aging, whatever the topic is. Find the news story that, this is a woman who ran the fastest 100-meter run last year at age 100, okay? If you teach photography, and this is the first picture ever taken that has a human being in it in 1838, and you can see the human being there on the right-hand side, the oldest surviving picture of a human being. If you teach photography, get students excited about photography with history. I love history. I bet some of you are too. Find history, share the history with your students and get them excited about it. Number 3, some people do scavenger hunts. Scavenger hunts means finding things. You might have your students find resources that will help them in the course that you're teaching, might help them in their assignments, okay? So some people have these little scavenger hunt activities and give bonus points for solving them, for completing them. Some instructors have their students create animation videos using a tool called Animaker. Animaker is a do-it-yourself video maker that has props, characters, transitions, and so forth. And so here's an example of someone in Puerto Rico where my students were helping after the hurricane. She did professional development videos using Animaker to teach about new technologies to the teachers of Puerto Rico, to teach them about blended learning, teach them about podcasting, teach other kinds of things. I have a couple of students who've been using Animaker quite a bit in my classes because it provides them a safe, free environment. One of my students created quizzes using a tool called Jeopardy Rocks. Jeopardy in America is a TV show, and they also have a website, or there is a website called www.jeopardyrocks.com with different levels of questions, $100 questions, $200 questions, $300 questions. My students have competitions solving the questions that have been created with Jeopardy Rocks. Another tool that I use, I don't know where I put my dice, but I thought I brought up a pair of dice. Oh, here we are. So I often have a pair of dice and I roll the dice, and whatever number that it comes up on, that's the number 6 that I might discuss in my agenda. My agenda has 10 items. Well, I'll talk about number 6 or number 8, whatever the dice came up with. There's a website called random.org. At random.org, your students can roll the dice, can flip a coin. It has a randomizer, so if your students are presenting that day, it randomizes and gives the order of who's going to present. It randomizes the sequence. You might randomize your agenda for that day, so you're not always teaching the same way. It's a way to change it up, to try something new. It has a countdown clock on it, so if students get 1 minute or 2 minutes to present, when their minute is done, they have to sit down. So it's a nice tool that has a countdown clock, a randomizer, and so forth. Similarly to this is a website called Wheel Decides. If you spin the wheel, whatever it ends up with at the top of the wheel is what you start with. So instead of the preset agenda, you have a wheel that decides how you're going to go about it, what you're going to do. Another really fun tool, yes, it's really fun. Is it fun? Oh yeah, it's really fun. He thinks so too. A really fun tool to use is called Kahoot. Kahoot works off your mobile devices, and it was developed by a professor in Norway. Norway, where the up the fjords of Norway, where they talk all funny up there, yeah. So he had nothing else to do there, nothing else to do in Norway. He built Kahoot, and Kahoot lets you answer questions and have competitions. My students love using Kahoot, and they like winning. They like getting their picture under the board showing they're the winners of the Kahoot. So you have a set of questions that are asked, and then students pick the answers. And and they only get so much time to select the answer in Kahoot. So it's really kind of a cool tool. Another tool that I've been using a lot lately, and Hesse, you need to think about this one, is called FutureMe, futureme.org. In FutureMe, you write an email to yourself sometime in the future that comes to your email basket, like, did you finish your dissertation by December 31st, 2018? Oh, no. I'm sorry, yes, I'm not meaning to pick on you. You did finish your dissertation. We all have to bow in her honor. But FutureMe is a tool that gets you goal setting, because you know that email is going to come. It's going to ask you, what did you accomplish during the past couple of weeks? It's a letter to yourself. You always want to write a letter to yourself? Well, maybe not. So it's an option. All these things are options. Maybe you don't use this one. That's okay. Use Kahoot. Enroll. So number 5 is autonomy and choice. Autonomy and choice. So I give my students assignments in my learning theory class, but I give them options. You can take a MOOC, a massive open online class on learning theories from Harvard or from Stanford or from Oxford, wherever. If you take that massive open class and pass it and get a certificate, you can delete the final assignment. I give them incentives. If you write a reflection paper on it and if you don't finish but write a reflection paper, they can delete the midterm. So they're taking extra classes, they're doing extra work. And there are all sorts of massive classes you can find at Class Central. Take a look at Class Central. There's thousands of them. And they might help students learn the content in physics, in anatomy, in coding, computer coding classes, in learning theories. There are tons of these free, high-level, high-quality videos that are available for the world. Why not use the free stuff that's out there? Let students have at it. Let them take a course in fitness and health and nutrition, whatever it is out there. One thing that Caitlin Tucker uses is something called a digital choice wall. On a wall, she posts, maybe using Padlet, which is a tool out there, a number of different activities for her. She's doing elementary students, and she posts on the board all these activities and letting students pick the ones they want. And she has them all just like a chalkboard or a blackboard. Instead, it's a virtual wall. And she might have students do jigsaw groups where in step 1, you meet with your home group and then you move to a breakout room with an expert group that discusses certain things, and then you come back to your home group, back and forth using the meeting rooms in Zoom with different groups doing different things, jigsawing the assignment. So you might be assigned a number 1. And if you're the number 1 in the group, you're going to maybe read the first chapter. And if you're a number 2 in the group, you read the second chapter. And you're a number 3 in the group, you read the third chapter. If you're a number 4, you read the 4th chapter. And then all the number 4s of all the different groups meet in the breakout rooms and the meeting rooms and discuss chapter 4. And all the number 3s meet together. All the number 2s meet together. All the number 1s meet together. And that's a way to jigsaw, break it up. And then they come back to their home groups and share what they learned. Another thing that I like to do in number 5 is I have them go to biography.com and read about a famous scientist and do papers about that scientist, do assignments wrapped about that famous scientist, like Alexander Fleming, who discovered penicillin. Now we need someone to discover a vaccine, right, for COVID-19, who'll be the next Alexander Fleming. Have students track the life of a scientist. Or someone famous in literature. There's all these free resources up there at biography.com or famouswomen.com or womeninscience.com. There's a number of these kinds of websites that have a lot of information that are available. Another assignment I have my students do that get at choice is I have my students create a glossary of words that they learned. But some of my students create a multimedia glossary that add videos that explain the words in my learning theories class, like positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, and so on. There's a video that goes with it. And you can click the links that are here and you can take a look at their glossaries. There might be a picture, a text, a video, all sorts of things that they embed in it. Another thing that I do, and many of you probably do, is something called flipping the classroom. In the chat window right now, if any of you flip your classroom, could you put down what the topic that you're flipping, what content area that you're flipping your classrooms in? And Hessa will read them to me in a couple of seconds. So I'll be curious, but I've got 3 or 4 journal articles, researches that I've done on flipping the classroom. Recently in China and in Korea, they've been flipping the classrooms a lot, where you show the video or you have it available to watch at home. And when you come to the live face-to-face class, you discuss the content. Instead of lecturing in class and having assignments after class, you have assignments before class, and during class, you do problem solving. During class, you do decision making. During class, you do discussions. You flip the classroom, if you will. Hessa, did anyone put in the chat window ways they're flipping the classroom?
Not yet, Dr.
There's the big challenge for all of you. We'll see if someone has. So we have another chance for a poll going off here. If Hessa wants to call up the poll. Any light bulbs going off so far? Yes, definitely. Many of them pop, pop, pop. Yes, several. Yes, maybe. No, no, no. There's no hope for with this person. I'm curious what you think. And you can be totally honest. Okay, we got a couple of pops. Thank you for, yeah, not yet, but that's a good challenge for me. Thank you. Hopefully soon we're gonna get one. I'm sure we'll get one. We got a couple people who picked that so far. Yeah, that's a good challenge. Yeah, and the yes maybes. Well, I think I'm hoping the yes maybes become yes definitelys by the end. Good, 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 good. Okay, let's. Wow. Okay. So we've got, go ahead and share that, Hessa. You sharing those results? Great. So you can see a lot of pop, but yet still a ways to go. We still have work to do in here. So wonderful. Well, we have a number of ideas left to walk through. And again, these are all from within the framework of the tech variety model. We can stop the share there now. So we can close that one out if you can. I don't know if you can do that or not.
It's on my end.
Okay, there we go. It just wasn't on mine. So again, those 10 principles we're kind of walking through. And you don't have to do all 10, okay? You don't have to do everything that I'm saying. If you looked at this list of tech variety and did 4 or 5 of them, you'll have a successful online class. If you pick number 1, I mean, every one of these could be the most important. I could say tone or climate's the most important, and it really is. I could say that tension or challenge is the most important, and it really is. All these things are important or can be deemed the most important, but you don't have to do all of them. You only have to do a few to make a difference in your classrooms. Trust me.
We have a comment.
Trust me. No, it's all the people have done motivation research for the past century. This is a distillation of over 100 years of psychology, probably 150 years of psychology, going back to John Dewey and well before that, to Thorndike, to Pavlov, to everyone. They're all in here. Every psychological theory is in here. Behavioral theory, cognitive theory, social learning theory, constructivist theory, social constructivist theory, even theories you haven't even thought about or haven't been developed yet. They're all in there. Trust.
We have a comment about flipping.
Yeah. We have a question or a comment?
It's more of a comment. Asil commented that we've been using flipping training for employability skills, training programs, and I'm presuming she's in the Ministry of Labor.
Great. I wasn't talking about the workforce-based learning, and that is an area that's growing today because people need reskilling. They need upskilling because the jobs are changing fast and people are living longer and working longer within their lives. In university settings, they're talking about creating 60-year curriculum, not a 4-year curriculum, not an 8-year curriculum, not a 12-year curriculum, but 60-year curriculum. We are in the learning century. We are learning all the time. So my one book that's been translated to Arabic, The World is Open, Lebanon publishers, how the web is changing and revolutionizing education, is all about that. We're in the learning century. We're learning all the time. And because we're learning all the time, we need time to engage our learners by bringing in guest experts. The gentleman in the upper left, Dr. Mike Melenda in this picture, he developed a course I now teach. He developed it 40 years ago, and I brought him into my class to talk about that course. That's a way to enhance your course, bring in guest experts. Every week, I'm bringing in different guest experts. I bring my former student from Bangkok in to talk about how she's using my class, my book in her class. I bring in Dr. Tom Reeves in the middle on the left-hand side, talking about action research and design-based learning. I bring in, trying to see who I'm bringing in this picture in this one, but I think I'm bringing in the developer, Charlie Miller, who developed Flipgrid. He's next to me in the middle, I'd say on the left-hand side in the middle. And this one I'm bringing back Dr. Marty Siegel, who actually developed many of the initial software that we use today. He worked on the Plato project at the University of Illinois, and he now is a professor at Indiana University, who's recently retired. I brought him in to interview him about his career and get my students to learn about his career. I brought Jima Nagaya in from Nigeria. Now, Jima took over 700 MOOCs, and I got a chance to meet with him in a conference last year in Scotland. But he talked about his life as a MOOC learner with all my students and what it was like taking 700, passing 300 of them, and so forth. So having guests in your class, bringing in to talk about the world community. He's talking about internet access in Nigeria, the lack of bandwidth in Nigeria, and the difficulties that he faced therein. Another thing you can have students do for relevance and meaningfulness, besides bringing in guest experts and guest discussants, is having students edit Wikipedia pages. There's actually a couple of websites that have challenges for students to update Wikipedia, improve Wikipedia. My students write wiki books. They write different chapters in a wiki, and together we make it into a book. Another way for relevance and meaningfulness is to have case-based learning online, like my friend Mark Braun, who teaches anatomy and physiology. He has different cases where you interact with the case, you read the story about a man with a chest pain, a woman with a cough, whatever, and you get the blood pressure, you get the heart rate, you get temperature, you get all this data as a first-year medical student, and you have to solve the problem. I do the same with teachers, teacher-based cases. We have different problems that we pose to students and have them solve them. Again, editing Wikipedia pages, I shouldn't have had this twice, but it's become really, really popular here at Indiana and other places. You can also have students analyze raw data, such as computer code that they can correct, financial statements they can analyze, health data that they might interpret. Have them analyze real world existing data. If you teach computer science, there actually are websites that have code with embedded errors that students have to fix so as to learn computer coding skills. Number 7 gets it, interactive and collaborative. A free tool called Trello lets students have these stacks of cards, and underneath these cards are resources. If you click on a particular card, you have a set of resources and links to the internet underneath it. These cards indicate progress of teams. The first on the left is the beginning of teamwork. On the right-hand side is when they finish their teamwork. So the teacher can check the cards and see how the progress of different teams. The teacher can manage the online groups this way with Trello. It's a team management tool and list-making application that's free for teams to organize their work and do different school-based activities. They might write newsletters or other class newsletters or other kinds of things in Trello. Another idea for number 7, interactive, that comes out of Griffith University in Australia is instead of having a written exam, they have students sign up for a meeting time with the instructor in Zoom and have an oral examination. I think this is a hard one, and this is the one I do not recommend without a lot of planning and thinking. But this can be one of the more interactive and engaging and memorable kinds of assessments that you will ever do. So it's something to think about doing, and maybe you click on the link and go to her Sway explanation of oral assessments. My friend Danielle Logan uses this, and she sent me the ideas, and they use it a lot there. And she says it saves time. I think it would take more time, but again, it's worth thinking about doing. Another idea for interactive engaging is to use tools like Meeting Words and Now Comment and Google Documents. Some of you know, and by the way, we can have in the chat window, if you want to type in how you use Google Documents, I'm curious, you might type in chats. You probably have never heard of Meeting Words, but in Meeting Words, everyone's text is a different color. So you know who contributed what on the document. And in Now Comment, comments go on the right-hand side next to the document. And so you can see whose comments. A way to make words, to make projects interactive, make students interact on maybe their team planning documents. For me, I use it when I have a conference paper to write or an abstract to write. My team members go into Meeting Words and everyone works on the abstract, on different parts of the abstract, and together we assemble the final project. So instead of sending an email back and forth, we do it all in Meeting Words, or we do it all in Google Documents. So it's a way to get input from everyone on the respective team. Negotiating meaning. That gets at social constructivism, getting at multiple perspectives, if you will. Okay. And that's just an example of my, that was back from July 2020 using Meeting Words on the left-hand side in green there. So you can see that I do in fact use that one. Another thing that I'd like to use, and I don't do this enough, I wish I would do this more, is have a guest speaker, but have your students find information about the guest speaker and create a PowerPoint slide deck of all that guest speaker's work, all their articles, whatever their visuals, their charts, their graphs, quotes, and then the guest. And this is an example where the guest didn't have time to put together a presentation. I said, no problem. We'll put the presentation together for you and we'll do a PowerPoint. And anything you don't want to talk about, just say pass. Anything you can talk about, say, okay, I'll talk about it. So it's really spontaneous, very interactive kind of idea. So it's a good way to get students to find out about the guest, because they have to design this before the guest arrives. They have to read about the guest before he or she comes. A tool that I used last year at this time is called Nuclino. Nuclino is like a wiki where anything can be deleted, but it's a free tool. And it's kind of primitive. It's kind of first generation, But my students at Indiana University interacted with my former student, Mena Ju at Wayne State. Mena's students would be one group that would analyze one article and take on the persona of the authors. My group would read a second article that was the critique. So as we are reading a book with critiques and responses to articles, and their students took on the roles of the people who wrote the article, who critiqued the article, and they debated. They have debated, assuming the identity or the personality of that person. It was really interactive. It was all free. It was kind of fun. And Hessa knows that Mena is really a top-notch former student of mine that likes to do these kinds of things. So Nuclino. Well, if you use this, okay, you don't have to. It's an example. Again, one problem is you can delete all the work by mistake because it is a wiki. Someone could hit the wrong button, but I don't think we did that more than one time. I think it was me who did it. So it's not too much of a worry, but it does happen. There's an interesting website if you teach science or math or engineering, physics, healthcare, any of the science areas. Drexel University and the president of Drexel University Online, my friend Susan Aldridge, has put together a website of the best simulations and animations around the world to teach engineering, math, computer science, healthcare. It's called virtuallyinspired.org. Type in virtuallyinspired.org. Tessa can type that in the chat window for all of you. So you can take a look at this website and what they have. These labs are in there, and you can get the lab test results. In effect, you're doing virtual labs, if you will. You're doing virtual labs to interpret data, to exchange data, to evaluate data, conduct experiments, and so forth. So really high level. It has the most high level resources out there. So again, if you're in any of the science areas, any of the math areas, any of the healthcare areas, you might find some resources that you could use in virtuallyinspired.org. Another thing that you can do in the healthcare area is to have branching simulations. One of my former students, Kira King, who did a book with me over 20 years ago, she works at a company called Connective, and if you click on the link, you can read about this. They do storytelling, branching on virtual patient simulations. They have virtual patient simulations where you make a decision and then other data comes at you. You make a decision and additional data comes at you. Number 8 gets at engagement, interactivity. There's a tool that some of my students use, and they told me about this. I have not used this one yet, but they use it, called ThingLink. ThingLink lets students have discussions and around maps, for instance, interactive maps. So they have clickable links, and underneath the links might be pictures, videos, text, websites. So you might have some kind of map of European history or of Africa, and as you click on the links, you get additional materials that come at you. So that can be used in history classes, can be used in geography classes, can be used in archaeology classes, anthropology classes, maybe political science kinds of classes. Students can chart the path of a story on the map and can connect this historical information they're learning about to different geographic locations on that map. So it's not just reading about something, it's actually interacting with that something. ThingLink.com. Might be a Van Gogh painting. I went to the Van Gogh Museum 2 years ago, right? I think it was 2 years ago. And I've been to it once before, but now you can go virtually to Van Gogh and comment on the Van Gogh paintings. You might go to a map of the United States and pick different states and look at COVID outbreaks, the number of cases by state. And you know, that actually those maps exist now. So again, Here's a Greek mythology tour going to Greece, and you might have different characters and different information coming up when you're reading a story about Greek mythology. Also, number 8 gets again at healthcare scenarios and simulations that you have to solve, you interact with. You get data that comes up, and then you have to take that data and analyze different data. There's a website called PHET from the University of Colorado it's a free website that has little simulations in physics, in biology, chemistry, earth science, and math. They're like little micro worlds that you interact with to look at sound and motion, look at heat and thermodynamics, look at electricity and magnetism. They're all little free, short little, like I said, little micro worlds that you interact with. And it's worth looking at if you teach science areas or math at the secondary or high school level in particular. One thing that I like to do is have students create a timeline of events. And there are some free timeline tools like X Timeline and Timeline Curator that enable my students to summarize what they learned in my class, to take a look at the history of my class in a timeline of sorts. Another way to engage students is to do virtual reality and virtual worlds. Now I realize in your online classes, this might be difficult to do, but this is coming. So whether they're directing a choir or they're wearing a virtual reality headset to interact with a virtual heart and show the components of that virtual heart, or conducting an orchestra through this virtual headset, right, and playing different music. And you can, by the way, all these links in here, you can actually listen to it or play the music that you see in here. So I've downloaded the videos for you. So if you want to take and play those videos, you can. So number 9 gets at challenge or tension, embodied virtual reality experiences. You can wear the headset and feel what it's like to be an older person in a hospital or in a hospice, and having to make decisions about your life or the end of your life. You can empathize with someone wearing these virtual reality headsets. In the United States, you can wear these things and find out what it's like to be a homeless person, or to be a minority, to be a person of color in the United States, and have people interact with you in different ways with these headsets, they're trying to build empathy skills. They're trying to build perspective taking with the skills with these, a sense of caring and commitment and so forth. Tension and challenge. My friend Paul Kim at Stanford has a tool that he called Smile. Now Smile Up, Stanford Mobile Learning, Interactive Learning Environments, or inquiry-based learning environments. And Smile lets kids rank questions and evaluate questions, but it also has a tool in Smile that evaluates kids' questions. So what's a level 1 question, a basic fact? What's a level 5 question? It gets kids in competitions to brainstorm high-level questions that they can ask. And it's a free tool that you can download. You can download Smile Up and have students engage in critical thinking, question asking, evaluation, generation of ideas, question generation. So again, this is a tool that's been around for decades. He's traveled the world. He's been to Rwanda, to India, to Thailand, to Mexico, getting literacy skills focused, getting literacy skills. And actually my son went with him to Tanzania, Argentina on the Smile and Smile Up project. Also, Padlet is a tool that's used a lot in the UK and Australia. I haven't seen it used as much, but it's used in the US too. It's like sticky notes on a wall. So having students brainstorm on a virtual sharing wall, doing collaborative discussions on a wall. I really recommend you take a look at Padlet. Padlet is a tool, I think, when I do presentations, often it's one of the top 2 or 3 ideas from my presentations. One other thing my students do is create data.
25 minutes.
What's that?
We have a little less than 25 minutes.
Yeah. I'll try and be done in about 10 minutes to have 15 minutes of Q&A. So thanks, Hessa. So another, and by the way, did anyone put anything in the chat window?
Yes, we do have one question.
Go ahead.
Any tips for asynchronous teaching?
Yeah. In fact, that was my area of research for a long time, was asynchronous learning and teaching. And so one thing you want to do is have your students take charge and find resources as what I call the cool resource provider. Everyone signs up to provide resources, like in Pinterest here. Create a database of resources. Pinterest is an asynchronous tool. And so now I'm not sure if they're talking about asynchronous discussions, which is a different topic, or asynchronous learning. I think you said asynchronous learning.
Asynchronous teaching.
Teaching or learning, yeah. So in asynchronous teaching and learning, you could have a skeleton of resources and have students add to it. Keep adding to that resource, or the database of resources that are available. If you're talking about asynchronous discussions, I have students who start the discussion and who end the discussion. So I'm not always the one starting and ending. They sign up to start or end. And often the starter becomes the wrapper, the summarizer. If you want to have a good asynchronous discussion, tell students they have to post more than 3 sentences, because the first sentence they post is going to be, I agree with the last person. The second sentence is going to be, I believe, or I think. The third sentence, they actually say something important. So have them type at least 3 sentences, or it's going to fail. What else? In those discussions, always refer to students by name. In asynchronous discussions, always bring up the good things first before the bad things. Don't point out all the things they got wrong. First, point out what students got right, and then point out what they can improve on in those asynchronous discussions. Okay, those are some quick things. I'll try and put some more in here for actually, most of the ideas in here were asynchronous ones, not synchronous ones, such as using mind maps. Having students summarize the discussion in a concept map, in a mind map, and having other students comment on those mind maps or those discussion maps. There are free tools for mind mapping, Mindomo, I could go on and on, CMap, Glyphy. There are a lot of these kinds of things out there. Just type in the web. If you want a free concept mapping tool, just type that in a Google search and you'll find them. 20 years ago, not so popular. Having students do timelines, as I mentioned earlier, this is all asynchronous kinds of things. Summarize their learning in an interactive timeline, like X timeline, timeline glider, whatever the tool I had up earlier. Designing brochures, designing products. There's a tool called Canva that is also free. It's an asynchronous tool. Canva lets you design professional looking infographics, brochures, syllabi, flyers, announcements, definitions. I have my students using Canva to post, as Hessa knows, R511, we have students post their instructional technology definitions with little mind maps and concept maps. I have also my students creating websites of their learning, websites of their final projects, if you will, as a final project. So number 10 gets at yielding products. Okay, these are all yielding product, designing a brochure, creating a timeline, creating a database. These are all products. Getting students focused on the product at the end, designing something at the end. And so this takes us to the end of the tech variety model. And the other R2D2 model won't take me long. I'll just give a few related to that and we'll move on. So those are the 10 principles of motivation: tone, encouragement, curiosity, variety, autonomy, relevance, interactivity, engagement, tension, and yielding products. I want you to pick what motivational principle you see as most crucial when you teach online. Go ahead and pick one of those. So far, I don't see any. Oh, we got one answer, one person. 2 people, 3, 4. It's a hard one, isn't this? This is a hard one. Okay. The number one, actually number 1, 2 answers, most of you either picked interactivity or encouragement feedback. Those were the 2. Autonomy and engagement also got votes. Relevance, variety got some votes. So go ahead and reveal the results. 60% of you voted. Okay, cool. All right. So this is the tech variety, actually my second model, my R2D2 model. Again, comes from the second book, and this has 100 activities in it. So the first one has 10. It has 10 activities for each of the 10. 10 times 10 is 100. The second one has 4 quadrants. We have 25 activities in each quadrant. 25 times 4 is 100. I was going to do a third one of these and gave up because I would have gone crazy. It's crazy enough doing 2 of these, believe me. So the second one gets at read, reflect, display, and do. Divide the web up into 4 things you can do. You either read things, or reflective writing, or visualization, displaying, seeing it, or hands-on doing. Reading, reflecting, displaying, and doing. It's a problem-solving wheel. It's not a learning style inventory. Some use it to look at learning styles. I believe more in learning preferences. And so my colleague out there, Dr. Ka Jong, and I wrote this book together. She's at Wayne State University in Detroit. Read, reflect, display. Got my lightsaber and 2 lightsabers with me here. And so the first one gets at auditory words, preferring words, spoken words, written expression, having something you read and reflect on, and podcasts, for instance, stories that are read. If you teach in elementary school, you might go to a free website called Storyline online. It has actors and actresses read stories. If you're more in the schools in a K-12, maybe high school, middle school, you can go to the Open Access Science Journal website called DOAG, Directory of Open Access Journals, to get stories for kids that they can read. Again, first part is reading or listening to words in a podcast, listening to, for us, National Public Radio is a very reputable podcast that we can get in medicine, in health, and other areas. You could read blogs. You could listen to podcasts, all sorts of ways to get at the first quadrant, if you will. You can go to Twitter. You may have heard a lot about Twitter in the US. It's I have a Twitter feed. People can follow experts in Twitter, short blog posts, short, we call micro blogs. And you could have a class Twitter feed. You could post to Twitter as a class. You could read from open access journals. There's a website called the Directory of Open Access Journals that you can see all the journals that are out there that are free and open, that are reputable. There are a lot of predator journals that aren't reputable. The second part gets at observation, seeing something, observing something, watching something. Personally, I wasn't good at part 2. For a long time as an instructor, I was a failure at observational learning. I didn't debrief with my students. I didn't reflect with my students. I didn't give a chance for us to slow down and think about what you've learned. So in here, I've added the polling questions to slow down a little every once in a while, get you to think about what you've learned. I'm trying to get you to put your commitments of what you've learned in here. So I'm constantly now thinking about debriefing. This is the most important of the 4 quadrants. It's not reading, it's not displaying, it's not doing. Reflect, reflect, reflect. Debrief, debrief, debrief. What did you learn? Elaborate on it, explain what you've learned, clarify what you've learned. That's where the power of learning happens. I'm trained in educational psychology. Before that, I was an accountant. Now I don't know what I am, I'm lost. But this is the most important thing. So at some universities, they have big questions that are asked. There's a website called BQO, Big Questions Online. I have my students ask big questions. This is a teacher in Notre Dame. She has big questions that students have to reflect on in her religion classes. You might have students interpret infographics, create infographics, and then interpret those infographics. Students today like these short snippets in an infographic, or they might be engaged in a discussion of video. Video discussions are called dialogues, and there's a website for students to discuss YouTube videos or annotate YouTube videos and then discuss them, comment on them. Don't just watch the video, but have a discussion of the videos or sections of it. Have a role play or a debate. Have a chance for students to discuss within roles different experts, positions, different famous people, for me, and famous people in psychology.
Program complete. Enter when ready.
Third thing gets that visual learning, timelines, flowcharts, pictures, diagrams, demonstrations. We might have free images that you get. There's a website called Creative Commons. Creative Commons lets you put information up for free that others can use without royalty. There's lots of resources made available in Creative Commons, whether you teach in medicine, business, healthcare, education, whatever. You can also use short videos to anchor the learning. So some people use short videos from BBC or CNN or what Medical Tube or School Tube. If you create a video and show that short video to your students and let them discuss it, come back to the video, replay it. That's called anchored instruction. That's called a macro context. Everyone has a common experience from watching the short video. Then we can have discussion around that video, elaborate on what was said, maybe watch it again if it's a short video. Play it again and let students discuss and debate that one. Maybe it's an animation of COVID-19 to teach them safety and health procedures. Maybe it's a virtual tour of the human body that they go through and watch and then have the discussion. You can also have collaborative annotations in a tool called VideoAnt from the University of Minnesota. I mentioned Minnesota 3 times today. But VideoAnt is a tool where people can discuss different snippets of a video and have annotations that the group discusses and as a group make a decision about the quality of the ideas in it. Maybe snip that video up into segments that are watched and rewatched. Perusal is a tool also to do collaborative annotation of documents. These are free tools where you can highlight text and phrases in a little annotation. Another tool is called the World Mapper. The World Mapper lets you see data, you visualize it in the world map. So if you want to look at things like COVID-19, or you want to look at school spending or gross national product, the World Mapper tool will let you do that. It's a database of visuals in effect, and maps are powerful to see maybe migration patterns in a map. There's a new tool, and actually I've been working with the people from Lucid, that they've created Lucid for Education that lets you have mind maps, Venn diagrams, comparison and contrast charts, organizational charts, to see the data and visualize those concept maps or whatever. You know, just to visualize the data in different ways with maybe a concept map like Glyphy or MindDome or spicy nodes. One of my students this past spring created a mind map of the discussion in my class. They used they had the asynchronous discussion, and he put it in and created this mind map showing the words that were used and the connections between the words, looking at the salient points that were made by different students in the class, in the discussions. So sometimes my students look at the discussion and say, Dr. Bonk, I want to do more work. I want to analyze the discussions. I want to reflect on those discussions in a in a mind map or in a word cloud. These word clouds are really popular today. If you put the discussion in a word cloud, you can see different words come out that are used a lot in the word cloud. These were word clouds from my spring class, and it creates a history of the class in effect. Just show a few of these. You might have students sketch out draw the talks. If you have a guest that in your class, you might have students draw the discussion of that guest. When I was in Saudi Arabia the last time, they drew my talk on the screen. They displayed the talk and put it in the exhibit hall. This is a very popular thing today, not just have a PowerPoint presentation, but to have an image of the talk itself.
Make it so.
The fourth
All
thing
stations
is
prepare for reconnection.
Aesthetic learners, role play, simulations, hands-on kinds of things like these decision-making cases that I mentioned earlier, archiving student work in a gallery of best work so students can see examples of what prior students have done, having students do a podcast show. This is a high school student in the US. Having students do a video, having them create a video summary of their learning in the class, and then sharing those video recaps. My students create recap videos of their learning. So we're at the end there. It's a little bit over time. Actually, I'm not over time. Do we have the next poll to come up in here? How many ideas did you get from this talk? 0 if you're lucky, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or more. Interesting. The goal is, what do you think my goal was? Very good. Well, so far, we've got only 18 of you, so I want to wait till at least 2 more. Come on, we have to get 2 more of you filling this one out. 18 of 40, 19 have voted. Okay, one more, get at least half. Can I get at least half, please? Okay. Well, Hessel, you want to reveal the results? 3, it was a common answer, more than 10 or 3, 4, 5. Everyone seems to have gotten something out of it, which is good to know. My goal was 3. My goal is 3 or more. One person I didn't meet the goal, got 1, but that person can write to me. Maybe we'll get you some more. You can download my book. We go to the next poll in here. What pedagogical framework or model do you prefer? Tech variety, R2D2, neither one, both, or a combination? I spent more time on tech variety because it's more complex, but R2D2 is a simple model. In some ways, they're both developed about the same time, around 15 to 20 years ago. It took me, I didn't write the book for tech variety till 2014. It took me 14 years to write the book. I will try to create some unique combo of the two. Okay, reveal the results, Hessa. So quite big, but tech variety seems to be the top choice. You can all download it for free. That's my gift to all of you. But many of it will try and combine and create your own. Great. Okay, let's see what else we have in here. Yeah, we'll go to number 12. Poll number 12. Are you excited to try anything out that you've heard today? Yes, definitely, many of them. Yes, several. Yes, one. Not yet. No, my brain is dead. or simply not working. No, I'm having connection issues. I'm glad we figured out what that line was on the side, because that's happened before. Okay, we've got more than 20 this time. Go ahead and Hessa reveal the results. So many of you got ideas that you can use. Your brains are not hurting too much. Send me an email if you want to, follow up anything at all. You can reveal the results, Hessa, if you haven't. 23 people voted. So we've got poll number 13. We've got 15 total polls, so we've got 3 more left. Does all this stuff that you heard today give you a headache? Be honest. Yes, but I'm still excited. Yes, and I need some medicine. Not sure. No, let's go all day. No, let's go another hour. No, it's just right. And the number one answer is, lo and behold, what do you think the number one answer is? Okay. So go ahead and reveal the results, Hessa. Number one answer is yes, a headache, but we're going to try it. We're going to try it. We're going to try it. Let's try it. Some of you just right. Okay, good, good. Number 14. This is the critical one. Okay, 14. Would you attend a follow-up webinar from me? Definitely, probably, maybe, and no, you got to be kidding. It's an idiot. We already have 10 people who said, no, I'm an idiot. Just kidding. Maybe, probably, definitely. This is quick. People are filling this out quick. Wow. Okay. Wow. They were sleeping before, but they're filling this one out fast. Reveal the results here, Hessa. So it looks like we may have to come back on this one. So final polling question. As a result of this session, are you going to be more effective or more confident as an online instructor? Maybe, probably, definitely. No, you gotta be kidding. No. Again, people are filling this out fast. You're fast. Wow. This is fun to do, these little polls. So you can use these in your class. These are the things you can do to engage your students. If they're off task, find the things that excite them. These last 3 excited people. People are filling these out fast. Reveal the results, Hessa. Go ahead. Okay, so you can see it's yeah, people are gonna probably or definitely, So the world is open for all of you. The world is open. This is in the Philippines where I was a couple of years back. Actually, these are people from the Philippines in Taiwan where I was. These are Filipinos in Taiwan. These are people in Bangkok. World's open. These are people in Singapore. World's open for all of you. These people in Indiana. These are people in China, in Shenzhen, China. And these are in Guangzhou, in southern China Normal University. So I would like everyone to stand up. Everyone can stand up, and on the count of 3, we're at a jumping off point. We'll jump with me. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. We're at a jumping off point. We're moving into new territory with online and blended learning. We're not sure exactly where we're going, but we know it's going to be better. We know it's going to be interesting. We know it's going to be hopefully great. And hopefully we're going to be engaging.
Let's see what's out there.
Highly engaging for our students. We have got a few minutes left for questions that we might have from the audience. And so I will stop sharing my screen here at this point.
We have a question from one of the participants. Thank you for your informative presentation. I do believe the R2D2 framework attempted to simplify web-based learning in general and become a problem-based solving wheels in terms of online learning and teaching dynamic and engagement. After COVID-19 crisis, do you think the 4 distinct possibilities in your model need to be reconsidered and revised to include further components based on the extensive research results during the pandemic?
I think one thing that's missing both from the Tech Variety and R2D2, there are 2 things: purpose purposeful learning could be emphasized more, intentional learning, and the human side, the emotional side, the caring side, especially in the R2D2. The purpose and vision in the tech variety would be a critique, and also special needs, inclusiveness. What the pandemic has caused is an emphasis on inclusion and universal design for learning. And I think if I was critiquing the tech variety model, it doesn't have enough attention paid to inclusive education. And that's something I would try and address in that model. And as I said, the human side of thing has been lacking during the pandemic, the caring side. And I think that the model would maybe leave the first model, R2D2, but maybe have something over the top for the learning environment that would get a sense of caring and commitment on the part of the instructors. So those would be the things that I picked, the special needs, the purpose and intent side, and the caringness. Other questions? Go ahead.
Another participant asked how to motivate students in the elementary year where they are not familiar with online learning.
So that's when I put that first one up in the deck for the R2D2 side. I tried putting some early elementary examples up, and that's something that's been asked a lot. People are worried about kindergarten and first, second, and third grades and what can be done at those early elementary ages. Recently, a number of articles have been published on making learning more active and engaging, and they're starting to get at how to make these environments engaging for early elementary students. That Story Online, I forget the exact title of that one, having stories read by actors and actresses that people look up to and have as their role models, if you will, in engage those early elementary kids. But that's just one example of something that can be done. There has to be more. So I would say take a look at and type in a Google search early elementary COVID activities, and I'll bet you find a lot of them. I'll search right now when we're done and send to HESA what I find. But this has been common, and it's been a concern. And lately, there's been some inroads. We need more. Definitely need more. Other things.
We have another question. Can we say that tech variety is a purely motivational framework which aims to engage the students in online learning? And in your opinion, what other significant factors need to be taken into consideration besides your framework in order to control effectively the issue of student engagement and other related issues for online learning?
Well, that's a big one. That gets at the whole learning environment and supports that we provide for students. I mean, the tech variety is an instructional model, but to really change the learning environments, we really have to think systemically about the supports that are provided by your organization and your institution, and the resources that are provided for the training. I think the training supports will have to be increased, because this is not going to be a one-off. I think this is permanent in some regards. Not saying that the amount of online learning, but people will move increasingly to an online environment. Not 100%. We'll move back to the classrooms, but online will not go away. Because online is not going away anytime soon, we need better training supports, better materials to support the instructors. The things that are lacking in that is assessment. I would say assessment is the big one. How do we assess? What do we assess? Why do we assess? Assessment, copyright, plagiarism, and quality are the four big issues in online environments. Let me repeat those: assessment, quality, plagiarism, and copyright. Those aren't addressed in the tech variety model, okay? So if you want to build quality indicators for class, what are those? If you want to build the assessments for your class, how do you know if your motivators you were successful with them? What ways are you going to assess them? Then I bring us back to the Education 2020 model, where we build flexible assessments. We build choice in the system. We let students pick and choose from options within activities that are designed all to help them engage in learning, so as to have some empowerment, to be empowered as a learner. So the motivation model has to tie into the assessment model, like Tech Variety. But Tech Variety is not an assessment model. It's an indicator of how we should assess, but we probably need an equal 10-dimensional scheme for assessment that marries with our motivational scheme. I think if you did the two of those things together and then thought about the learner from a standpoint of inclusiveness, with universal design for learning coming in from the top maybe, and then from the bottom, the sense of caring or humanness. If you had those four things, you have Tech Variety. I'm just making this stuff up, by the way. So if you had Tech Variety for motivation, if you had the assessment model, and then you have the inclusiveness model and the caring model, you put those four things together, you probably have a complete whole. So no, the Tech Variety model is not a savior for everything in the classroom, but it's a key component. I don't know, maybe I need to pursue that. By the way, I'm impacted by this pandemic. I haven't cut my hair since it started. So I have been running 199 straight days. And I haven't been to my office since March 11th. So this is impacting me in different ways, but I'm on sabbatical now. And Hessa's making me work real hard in my sabbatical. Anything, final questions?
We had just one of the attendees mention if they could get the presentation slides, they weren't able to write down all the ideas fast enough.
Yeah. So training share, and I can put this in the chat window, I might be able to actually, so if you go to this website, trainingshare.com, look at it should be something in there that says archived talks. And then all my slides are there, so you can download them. All from all my talks are all up in the archive talks. Once you're at Training Share, try and find the archive talks, and you'll be there. So thank you all for coming in. I see we have an agreement on the assessment, quality, copyright, and plagiarism. It's the four evil horsemen out there, that people always bring back. But there's an assumption that there's no plagiarism face-to-face. There's an assumption that face-to-face are high quality. There's an assumption that we know how to assess face-to-face. We assume that face-to-face is better, when actually most instructors turn their back and they go on the chalkboard. Many people are not high quality face-to-face. So there's this assumption face-to-face is so much better. In fact, the research out there shows that blended is best, face-to-face is second best, and fully online is second best, and face-to-face is the worst across hundreds of studies. In fact, you can be much more creative teaching a blended or fully online class and bringing people from around the world to your class, as Issa knows because she's been in my classes. Online is a challenge. It certainly is a challenge. It is something new. Teaching one student online is hard the first time. I taught, a smaller class online in 1997, fully online. The second time I taught, it was easy, having twice as many students. It's the first time doing anything is hard. Doing anything the first time. Just got to get through that first time. The second time is going to be relatively easier. The third time, it's going to be just like the same as face-to-face. Trust me. Trust me. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate the comments and questions, and you're staying a little extra.
Thank you, Dr. Bach, for joining us today. And I see you still have some of the same tips and tricks as usual. We have enjoyed.
I hope a few of them have changed, because half of the stuff I just made up on the fly. Okay, we'll see you all next time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.